and welcome back to another boring episode from Factory Garage, Sweden. There have been a demand of, since I posted a reply on a German guy, what's the name? However, he tried to turbo his two-stroke and he wasn't satisfied with the function. And I thought to myself, well, I've done it, but I did another application, but it isn't that hard to do the application he's doing also. I can make another episode of this one if it is of interest, but I'll start with this one. Easiest setup for beginners. This is a work by Lennart Sander, Sweden. Lennart Sander. Check his channel. He hasn't got many videos, one or two I can't remember, but it's a good one. Boostbusters. And the easiest setup is draw-through setup. You pull in the air, the turbo is pulling the air through the carburetor, compresses it and then pushes it into the engine. This is the way easiest setup, but there are some small traps to fall into. You need to place the turbo high, that because when releasing the throttle it becomes huge low pressure zone between the throttle and the impeller and also the whole system, and creates the particles in the fuel get dispensed out of the air and fall and puddles, and then the engine gets its like with not atomized fuel. That's not good. So when in next throttle it doesn't respond. So having no possibilities of building a puddle, it will be easier. And you might need a carbon seal because of this. If let's say you boost in 2 bar, really good, and then shutting down throttle, you will have a big, huge vacuum, and that pulls oil from the pressurized system, oil system, into the intake tract, and the engine might smoke like a banshee. And I'll come back to this. You can use it to your advantage though. And I'll show you the turbo I used on my setup. I need to change screen. There I am holding a turbo. It's a modified Volvo turbo 13T, quite big, but it produced anyway. Took some time to spool, but if having a little bit smaller turbo it would have been easier. And yeah, well, that's that. This very basic. Air in, compressed hot air out. Exhaust in, and it is down onto the floor where the turbo sits. Exhaust out. And that's the basics routing of the good stuff. Exhaust goes in here, air goes in there, magic happens, and boost is going up there. Yeah, next picture. And now we're getting advanced directly, because this is the first thing you need to know about to get it to work properly. Excuse me, I'm a little bit under the weather. Pressure delta over carburetor and exhaust pressure should never alter. And what do I mean by that then? Let's say you got a non-turbo engine, and you got at inlet of the carburetor, you got atmospheric pressure, and that is what is filling the cylinder the crankcase, and the piston goes down and pushes it up, and the way out it goes. And then you got this back pressure in the pipe, and that's right here. The pipe is, I got a more picture. If you got this, the naturally aspirated engine got 2 bars, like 3 psi, I don't know, of exhaust pressure, you should never, under any circumstances, well, you got a tolerance for this also, but never under any circumstances let the boost pressure rise above the exhaust pressure. The exhaust pressure should always be the same as the naturally aspirated engine. So let's say you got 2 bars of 0.2 bars of pipe pressure, and you're boosting in normally aspirated engine, and later on you're boosting 1 bar, 1 atmosphere, 2 bar absolute. If you're boosting 1 bar, then the exhaust pressure should be 1.2 bar, and so on and so forth. Never, you can of course not exactly, you have some tolerance up and down, but there should always be positive pressure in the exhaust comparing to the boost pressure. A little bit above. This is an important thing. I'll come to that again. Next slide. And this is OEM on this turbo. It's a blow-off valve that opens when you're releasing the throttle. It's a recirculating one. I use it for a totally another purpose. This just a hose I never took away. I just let it be atmosphere pressure inside here. And when it boosted, it went pressure onto the membrane, the diaphragm on English, excuse me. And if I remember correctly, it boosted 0.8 bar, 1.8 absolute pressure, and then this opened up and regulated the boost by automatically, like a blow-off valve on a supercharger system. And as it is recirculation, the boost pressure just went into the suction side of the turbo again, and yeah, it worked just fine actually. And next slide. Now this should be replicating a pipe. It's like the stinger right here and not there, but I sketched it on 30 seconds. You should have, this is the header, diffuser, belly, and the baffle. And this is the stinger of the pipe. And I use the turbo itself, because the turbo is designed in itself to make a good pressure delta over the exhaust and impeller boost side, the cold side and hot side. Let's say it's designed for 0.5 or something like that exhaust pressure above boost pressure. I don't know, I haven't read the turbo map on this one, but the turbos are in OEM application on small engines are often designed like that. So I had a big, this is 42 millimeter, 38 millimeter inside. I had a huge stinger, because big stingers are letting air out, hot air out, you get rid of the heat. Very important in boosted applications to get rid of the heat. And later on, when the pulses was reaching the turbine, that created the back pressure. And by that I designed the pipe. I haven't got the pipe in my possession still. No, not still, whatever, you know. I sold it. As the pipe is working like you got Bernoullis and whatever, all that high pressure zones in the pipe. Where you got the largest diameter, you got the highest pressure. So this is where I put my wastegate. And this wastegate didn't control the boost. That was the valve over there. This wastegate controlled pressure delta over the turbo if it was about to alter. So I put a 0.2 spring inside it and then set it to so it was, yes, 0.2 spring. It opened at 0.2 bar, and then I used control on the underside and the upper side on the diaphragm with a boost control valve to control the opening of the let's say if you get boosting 1 bar, then I pressured, this was 1.2 from beginning, I put 1 bar into the diaphragm, then it kept it closed until 1.2 bar, because it get height from the spring also. So it always got 1.2 bar, no, 0.2 bars above boost pressure. Have I got any more slide? No, that was it. But I can take this one in. I never said anything about this. This is just easy. Oil in, oil out, and then you got water connections. I never used them. But this one, exhaust out. Do not ever, promise me this, guys, do not even try to restrict this side. Because you got the pressure delta over the turbine also. And the higher you can keep this pressure delta, the better efficiency you get from the turbine. So let's say I got this 42mm stinger and I got 20mm silencer after the turbine. It's just restricted. It won't work any good. It comes up to a level and then it won't work. And then the turbo boost will probably fall. So you need to put a diffuser cone right here to lower the pressure. You get higher pressure later in the diffuser cone, but that's after the turbine. And by this, try it first without silencer. Just get rid of it and try it if it's working. And do I've got any more info? No, I haven't got many pictures. I just thought I would make this small video. And I said I would be coming back to something. I have already forget what it was. And whatever. I put the carburetor on top right here. I had a Mikuni 44, a VM 44, and then I put the turbo right here with an O-ring, was shoved into the intake, so it was very close to the engine. And I got some pictures I can put up in the corner or something of the setup on my Kawasaki. And you will see a huge inlet bell and a very tight system. And as for oiling, I used a hydraulic pump that was belt driven, but at the time I was testing, I haven't got it connected to the crank yet. I just had the electric engine motor that was driving it, and had a control that always 1 bar. The pump was set up to always have 1 bar of oil pressure, because having too much oil pressure also, these turbos are cheap, so if they gets broken, that's just junk them and go out to the scrapyard and buy a new one. Mine was free. And having too much oil pressure will make the turbo spool harder. No, not harder, it will be harder for the turbo to spool, because the pressure is holding the shaft inside and pushing to the bearings, and because there are floating bearings inside. There are of course ball bearing turbos, but they are expensive and often too big for our applications. On snowmobiles and bigger two-strokes, yeah, it's working fine. Like 800cc two-stroke and 1000cc two-strokes, no problems, working just fine. There's a guy in Norway that has produced above or around 800 horsepower in his snowmobile. I can put his name up here also and a link to a dyno video of his channel. It's just insane. I can't remember his name now. Probably Morten, as every Norwegian guy. No, I'm just kidding. So this setup on my bike, it dynoed 96.3 wheel horsepower on the second pull ever. It just worked. No problem, it just worked. And a third pull, no more. It didn't work anymore. But not the setup, it was the piston. It was in pieces in the crankcase. Cast piston and yeah, all those issues. It will work better with a forged piston, I promise you that. But my engine was a KX250 96 year, but de-stroke to 61mm stroke and the 66.4 bore, of course. And that was 211cc to get into some classrooms in Sweden. So it revved a lot. So I revved it, I can't remember if it was, peak power was in the region between 11 to 12,000 RPM. This was 7 years ago, I can't remember everything. I almost forgot all thinking of it anyway. But as there are a little bit of a demand of me turboing my engines, it might be in the future, I don't know. But if doing that, that will be the Café Racer Overkill Kawasaki again. Probably TZR, as it is a 2-cylinder which got double amount of pulses, will be easier to boost anyway. But it's got power anyway. And I got no room on that bike to put a turbo on it. That's just crammed in there, everything. And by this, I figure I will end off right here, and I'll see you in the next episode of turboing. I will bring up setting the carburetor on the pressure side or injection. So we'll keep in touch if you want to. Bye guys! This is the turbo I used on the Overkill engine many years ago. It's an OEM Volvo turbo, TD04HL-J3T. No, not J3T, 13T. 13T. This is a little bit of a large turbo, but I had my issues, well, not issues, my reasons why I did this turbo. It was for free, and it was very good in shape, and yeah, it had this internal blow-off valve, I didn't use it for that reason though. I actually used it for regulating boost. And this I had directly onto, I made, what do you call it? The carburetor right here and the cylinder right here. A suction, not pressurized carburetor, carburetor on the sucking side of the turbo. But let's skip that for now. Let's talk about the exhaust, because exhaust is about the most important section of getting two-stroke turbo to work. In my case, this is a 42mm pipe, 38mm inner diameter. It's quite big. It's oily still though. It's good. This is in stainless. I have welded this onto, I grinded away the original wastegate housing and just to make it lighter. I can cut away some material when I'm stumbling. Well, I made the stinger quite large. I tuned the pipe. Sorry, I've sold the pipe. I haven't got the pipe still in my possession. But I tuned the pipe for about 7,000 RPM, if I remember correctly, to get the turbo spinning quite early. The engine revved about 10,000 RPM, a little bit more actually, and dynoed 96.3 to the wheel at, I can't remember if it was 0.8 bar of pressure. Or let's about 10, 11, 12 psi. And that was when this one released. And when this one is releasing, it recirculates the air. And well, enough of that. Not enough, but later. The exhaust pipe though, I made it quite tuned for a broad RPM range just to get some exhaust masses early in the, but I tuned it to 7,000 RPM, but it started to pull at, if I remember, 5.5, 6,000 RPM, and revved all the way. If I remember correctly, it was above. It revved all the way to the moon. It was 212 cc, the engine at that point. It's 7 years ago. I'm sorry I haven't got the dyno sheet. Maybe I can find it if I look for it on Facebook. But 96.3, I guess it was up against 12,000 RPM, but I can't remember though. However, it spooled very lazy, but I wasn't done with the setup. But my thought of having quite big stinger is to make the get rid of the heat and also make the pipe wide in tune section, and then let the exhaust housing decide the pipe pressure. Important part, remember this, the exhaust housing and the turbine decided the back pressure in the pipe into the cylinder. And I'm sorry I haven't got the pipe in my position, but let's imagine a pipe, and on the belly I placed a wastegate, and the wastegate, I didn't use that as a pressure regulator for the boost. That this pop-off valve, so to speak, did. The wastegate regulated the pressure delta of having correct pressure delta over the exhaust to the boost. And this is important, and we can get this big light now. I need to shut it off. The delta is very important to get the cylinder not knowing it is boost. And NA situations, you got pipe pressure at about 0.2, 0.3 bar, maybe less sometimes. And if you can keep that pressure delta over the exhaust pressure to the intake pressure all out the range, so let's say you're boosting 1.2 bar, and you can keep boosting 1 bar of pressure, 14.7 psi, and then you can keep exhaust pressure 0.2 bars above that throughout the whole RPM band, then you're golden. This makes for the engine not knowing it is boosted. Very important. And if you want to try my setup, I will make a sketch and post it in a corner so you can watch it while I'm talking maybe. And I can put some arrows what I'm trying to explain also. Having a draw-through setup as I had then, draw-through is the name, carburetor draw-through. You always, not always, but on 4-stroke engines, you need to have a carbon sealed turbo, but I skipped that. And this is because why you need it is because when you're letting off the throttle from, let's say, 1 bar of boost, you build a really big low pressure zone in front of the carburetor to the turbo, so it draws draws oil through the turbo seal and makes the engine smoke. Two-stroke should smoke. And I figured it was good. I just lubricated the turbo with a pump and then had two-stroke oil in the system. So when I boosted it and letting off the throttle and the big low pressure zone in front of the carb draw through oil through the seal, it went into the engine, made it extra lubricated on coasting down, where the two-strokes are quite sensitive if they're hot. So it was a win-win. Of course, you needed to have an amount in a tank with you so it could, let's say, it could, it's a loss system, so to speak. It went out the exhaust, but it took a while. But I actually never noticed it because I have only had a couple of dynapulls, then the piston was down in the crank case. The pressure delta though, above the, not above, from the exhaust to the inlet, you can, if you got a small engine, this is a guy, Lennart Sander in Sweden. I don't know if he invented it, but he has turbocharged, I can't remember what CC on the engine, but he's got a video on YouTube, Boostbusters something. I can link it right up in somewhere. And it's a TZR 50 or TZR 125, I can't remember. You have to watch for yourself, or I can correct myself with some text. The issue with that, it doesn't work any good in drag racing, because there is another guy, Lars Lövgren in Sweden, very talented guy that has invented a lot of stuff and made a lot of stuff and made a lot of power, but the system they use is heating up a catalytic converter after the pipe in front of the turbine, exhaust turbine, to get a secondary combustion inside there and raise the temperature, and by that raise the pressure to drive the turbine. But those are small engines. Having bigger CC, you have a lot easier to push the turbo. So where am I? Draw through is the easiest setup. You will almost, you don't need to do anything almost to the carburetor. It just sits there and get it like a normal engine. When turbo is boosting, it increases the velocity inside the carburetor, and by that pulls more fuel from the float. And that leads me into having pressurized carburetor. I never used it, but I know how it works. You need to pressurize above the throttle and in the float housing. And you need to do that with a pitot tube inside the boost tube before the carburetor. And Smart Carb have got this function built into them, so they work almost immediately. But I recommend going injection, then there's no problem at all. Just add fuel when you want to. Just see that you got enough fuel pump and injectors.